The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Saving and investing can be confusing and overwhelming. We're here to break through the noise, misinformation, and confusion with easy-to-understand concepts and tools that you can put into practice right away. Whether you're a novice investor or an old pro, join Jason as he explores different topics on investing and personal finance. From 401ks to better budgeting decisions, we'll cover it all. Our investment guidance will give you the comfort and security of knowing that you're on track to achieve your goals. It's time to rise above all of the distractions of daily life and take control of your financial future. Welcome to Financially Fit with your host, Jason Haviland.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Financially Fit with Jason Haviland. I'm your host, Jason Haviland. Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm joined by Scot Langdon, Long Hill Photography. Thank you, Scot, for joining us today.
Great. Thanks for having me.
So today, we're going to learn all about photography. So all things pictures, all things digital, your branding, your image. We're going to even get into actual photography, cameras, lenses, all that good stuff. And of course, we're going to do all of that in a way that's financially fit. So Scot, welcome to the program today.
Great, thanks.
All right, so start off with a little bit about your background. How did you get started in photography? Sort of what got you into this field to start with?
Sure. Like many photographers, they start, at a young age as a hobbyist, and I started in high school, entered competitions, ended up going on to college in photography, and I have a bachelor's in photography from Syracuse University in journalism. And my first job was at a weekly newspaper. I started in news.
All right.
And then got into other areas.
Newspaper, that's that thing that, where you actually pick up a piece of paper, you read it, it's black and white, one of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, paper.
Paper, yeah. All right, so you worked there for a little while, and then sort of what happened with little twists and turns in your career? What happened?
Yeah,
what happened
so I worked as a news photographer. I worked in the Boston area. We moved to upstate New York, my wife and I. Worked there for a while and realized that we really wanted to be back in New England. And rather than come back to New England and get back into photography, I actually got into the sales side of audio and video. And I went to work for Tweeter, et cetera.
All right. There's a blast from the past, Tweeter.
Yeah. So I kind of took a little bit of a turn. I used my photography interest and knowledge and wanted to work more with customers. Okay. So I worked there for 7 years, and really I migrated, my career more towards high-tech sales in IT and in software and some other areas. And really for the last 20 years have been in that space, all while continuing to shoot photography on the side.
All right. And so what do you do today? You work for a newspaper today?
So today I do work for the Lowell Sun.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm a part-time contractor, but I also have my own business on the side of doing a number of other things, real estate, headshots, and some other things. Okay. So now I'm using more of my commercial, but also my photojournalism background to do my work. Okay.
And are you involved in any? So we'll get into the headshots, the business photos for your social media, for other listings. We'll get into that in a little bit. But are you working on any projects right now, or anything sort of interesting from a creativity perspective?
Yes. Really since 2015, I started a project called Women of Strength, photo project. Okay. And what I'm doing is identifying, interviewing, and photographing women who have, in their own right, been very good at what they do in their own career, but then have given back to the community and other women to help them with their careers. And these are women who pretty much are, extraordinary in their own right. And I started this a couple years ago with just a quick introduction through social media to somebody they wanted to photograph. Yep. And my wife actually suggested that I take this on as a project.
Expand it a little bit. Go big. I like it.
So at this point, I'm, the goal is to have, at least 12 women that I photographed. And these are environmental portraits. These are putting them in the environment that they're best known for professionally. or through their work in the community, and photograph them as a portrait, not as a headshot, but really them as a person in their environment. And then it's a traveling show that will work, either hang at women's organizations or libraries or whoever wants to show it. I do have a local community college that's shown interest in hanging it, and that's probably, hopefully, slated over the next 6 months. Hopefully that will get off the ground. I've photographed 7 women so far, and I'm still looking for a couple of more candidates.
Okay. And if folks wanted more information on that, where can they find that?
They should, well, you can go to my website at longhillphoto.com. You can email me at scott@longhillphoto.com. There is a link off the website to the Women of Strength the WordPress page. So there is information
there too.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. Certainly keep us posted on that. Excited to see that exhibit when it comes out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about headshots. Right. We'll start with a real basic aspect of our social media presence, our professional presence. A lot of people, have their headshots. It looks to me like it's been cropped out of a wedding photo or some other photo for the family. Talk to us a little bit about your experience with headshots and sort of your impressions of why it's such an important part of our current digital presence and social media.
Sure. Well, as most people have come to find, that the quality of their iPhones has been pretty good. So they've been relying on that as a selfie has been their headshot.
Right.
And for some, they're still doing it because it's easy, it's cheap, and they feel that it's good enough. When in reality, anytime you're talking professionally to anybody out in the marketplace, whatever you're doing, whether you're a nurse, in business, if you're a student, prospective student looking for, college entrance or for your first job, is that headshot is incredibly important, and it says a lot about you.
How is this? Say a little bit about that. Like, how does the headshot convey? I mean, I sort of get it, but what are some of those things that you think it conveys subtly, perhaps, that are, that you can't get just by holding up your phone and taking a selfie?
Well, first of all, there's a certain way to pose people professionally for a headshot. There are headshots, and then there are environmental portraits, and they need to be done. There needs to be a certain cropping that's done. There needs to be a certain way that the body is positioned when you shoot a portrait or a headshot. Something straight on is not going to be flattering whether you're a man or a woman. And so it's important to have a professional be able to properly pose you, shoot that, and not only properly pose you, but light it properly, whether it's a head tilt.
Lighting's usually a big thing, right? That's a lot of times where you can't,
it's huge.
It's hard to do on your phone.
And if you're having friends take photos of you with either with their iPhone or whether it's a hobbyist with a camera, if they're using a direct flash, it's going to be horrible for the look of the photograph. Versus having something soft, a light that's actually soft and filtered, positioned properly so you get highlights in the eyes, and you don't get any raccoons if it's too high, or other issues that you can have. Okay.
And about how much should folks expect to pay for a head? Like, what's a good price?
So in the Nashua area, you can spend, with a professional, you should be spending somewhere between $100 and $250, depending on
Seems reasonable.
What you're expecting in return, how much time, how many images you want to choose from, how many to be delivered at the end. And don't forget that there's the photo time of shooting, and then there's the post-processing time. So don't forget to think of that in terms of how much time the photographer is spending.
And sometimes I've seen there's a lot of times at business networking events, they'll have somebody sort of doing headshots for the whole group. Have you ever done anything like that?
Yes, I have.
What's your opinion of those? Should we take advantage of those if we see those?
Yeah, definitely. As long as it's a professional. What you want to do is make sure that if you can see their website before that networking event, then you'll get a good sense. And ask questions about what kind of lighting that they're using. You don't want somebody to be charging you, $50 and you're getting, your hobbyist photograph of you when you
Right.
think that you're going to be getting the $150
Right.
value photograph,
Okay.
which should go in your social media.
Right. And so you get what you pay for, and you don't want to overpay, but you don't want to
Right. Yes.
it's definitely an area you don't want to underpay. All right, let's pivot a little bit from individuals to businesses. Right. I know when I go onto Google or try to get into any sort of directory, they ask for pictures of my business, my place of business, the inside, the outside. It's important for businesses too. Talk to us a little bit about that product. Do you do that, and what are some of the things you think we ought to consider when having that service done for our businesses?
Sure. So there are what they call work style or lifestyle images, which is people working around the office.
Yep.
And there's stock photography out there, but a lot of time with stock, you're not getting your industry or you're not getting your local flavor.
Right, or your actual inside.
Yeah.
I know on my Google listing, right, they ask Jason, show us what it's like inside your business, or show us the
That's
outside.
right. That's right. That's
your
your opportunity to put, really, if you've invested in your place of work, this is your place to show it.
Shine, right.
And the outside as well. If you've got a sign or something unique about the building, interiors, I shoot real estate, so I know the importance of shooting good quality interior images.
Yep.
So all that's important, and on your website as well, not only Google listing, but your website, and doing tours. If your location is important, the inside, if you have a business that you want to show off, you can actually do video tours with a photographer, and they can actually produce that where you're doing a walkthrough, and in some cases it can be guided by the user, actually driving the camera, so to speak, through the real estate, and that's what's out there right now.
And do you think we'll talk about real estate in a second, but for the businesses, do you feel like there's a separate sort of photography strategy for social media and online photos versus perhaps what we might want for brochures or other printed materials, or no, good photos are good photos, and you can get those from a quality photographer either way?
I think that there's more blurring of the lines right now. I think a good photograph is a good photograph. I do think that if this is kind of a separate issue from still photography, but video now is becoming even more important. And having that 30-second or a 1-minute clip, which I can help customers with that, to get people's attention, to see you as a business owner live, because it goes beyond the two-dimensional photo to what's the personality like, because you can figure that out through video.
Yep.
So it is important, but it's becoming more crossed over. What's online and what's in a brochure. I'm sure that you'll have a marketer tell you that there are subtle nuances, but the good photography is across the board.
Should hold up. All right. And what's a good price for that? If I wanted, a few inside, a few outside shots for my business, maybe a couple in-action shots of my employees, what's a reasonable price for that?
So the work that I've done for clients, I did one for a home health care organization in Nashua, and I went and spent 3 hours part of the day. We did some headshots. We did some interior work style with them working, and I charged $500 for that. And that's very reasonable because there's 3 hours at the business,
right,
and then there's another probably 2 hours at home,
right,
post-processing. So on an hourly basis, it's not that much, but I'm pretty efficient with my time, so I can turn out a very good product for a reasonable price.
Great. All right, so it's important for individuals, get their headshot right. It's important for businesses, get their image right. People selling their houses, right? It's more and more common to have individuals sell the houses on their own. Obviously, with real estate agents, the photography is a big part of the listing. You also do real estate. You do a lot of things. That's great. That's why you're here. Talk to us about real estate photos, what's important there, and if somebody is looking to sell their house on their own, what would you tell them to discourage them from grabbing their camera and going out and clicking 40 photos of their house with their iPhone?
I don't discourage anybody from. I'd like to be hired, certainly, but I don't discourage people from doing it themselves if they're doing it properly. But the proper way to shoot a home interior is usually at a different angle than most people do when they're standing.
Okay.
Most do-it-yourselfers or some agents who are really not really familiar with shooting interiors is they tend to shoot at eye level, meaning as they're standing.
All right.
So you're looking down at the floor, you're looking down at the counters, but a true quality interior photograph is actually about 12 inches below your regular view. So you got
to crouch down.
So you're a little bit of crouch down. I shoot on a tripod because I shoot natural light for the most part. Yep. And I shoot at longer shutter speeds because I'm shooting at an f-stop that has a lot of depth of field.
Oh, you just used a fancy word. F-stop. What's that? Briefly, tell us what that is.
So the f-stop is essentially the opening in that camera lens. So you've got a wide f-stop, which is at your 2.8, and then you have your f/22 is real small. Okay. So as you shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, actually go hand in hand. So as you shoot at f/22, you need longer exposures, hence the need for a tripod.
Okay. And a professional to do all this, to interpret all of that anyway.
Yes, and to do it on the fly when you arrive at a property, to be able to adjust your behavior on, right there and then requires a lot of experience. I don't shoot every house the same way. Okay. I just photographed a home yesterday. The foreground was lit in the hallway. Okay. But there was a big black hole at the back of the room. So how do you put light there? I actually have an off-camera strobe that has a radio controller, and I can actually fire the strobe to fill that dark spot back there.
Oh, wow, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, and in addition to that, when you've got ambient light, which is warm, and then you've got a strobe, which tends to be blue or cool, I had to gel that flash to make sure that it matched the temperature of the room, if that makes sense. Yeah. You can't do that without training or experience.
Okay, and I'm sure those photos, and it shows up in the product, right? They probably look great.
And many consumers, they don't know what took place in order to get there.
To get those photos. Okay, and what's a typical sort of photo shoot for a house? What's that?
It's usually about $300 to photograph a home. Okay. When you think about, the average house, in Nashua is probably in the $250 to $350 range. Yep. To spend, 1% on the cost of that, whatever the $300 is nothing compared to, because you essentially have one shot. As soon as that listing goes live, in most cases on MLS, you can't change those photos later on. Okay. It's kind of a one-shot deal. It's not like, well, I'll just upgrade the photos later on.
3 or 4 now and add some.
Exactly. They've got to be ready to go, and those are where shoot and deliver, and I do that typically within 24 hours.
Okay. All right. So, personal, business, real estate, we would be remiss in talking about photography if we did not talk about weddings.
Sure.
All right. Do you do weddings? And,
yes, I do.
So, same question. They're like, obviously we know, we all, everybody that's got a wedding wants it to be perfect. They want the memories. Mm-hmm. But what are some things to think about, consider, and watch out for? Again, people trying to save money might say, hey, I'm going to go grab my friend, give them a camera, or, have them go off and, just take a bunch of casuals or in action. Like, is that a good idea? And what's some thoughts and advice you have on wedding photography?
So my niche in the wedding photography space is more reasonably priced small weddings, whether it's a young couple that's on a tight budget, or it's a second or a third wedding for people, and they want to professionally record this event, but they're long past the big wedding, multiple photographers. They want good photography. That's my niche in photography. And I don't take big weddings on, which is generally over 100 people, guests. I won't, that's not something that I do because it can't properly be covered unless I'm working with somebody else or have an assistant. Okay. So, but I generally try to do most of these myself. For people who have no budget for photography, but it's very common now to go out and buy the little Kodak preloaded film that's still out there, and leave them on the tables.
Right, and have people
and just say click and leave them, and we'll process it, and thanks for your help.
Right.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do get what you pay for.
Yep.
If most brides are looking through the Knot or weddingwire.com or some kind of to get an idea of photographs, the best ones that they're looking at in there, that's easily a $5,000 wedding for photography.
Yeah.
And they have to understand that.
Yeah. What do you think? What's a reasonable price for you to charge? Or I'm sort of what you've described as a more modest kind of wedding. What's a good range people should be looking at?
Anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 is typically where I am.
Okay.
And I have packages that include prints. Or what's popular now is, can we just have the digital images?
Right.
And I can do that as well to keep the price down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's sort of some good ground as it relates to sort of taking photos using a professional. Cameras in our phones, they've gotten so much better in the recent past, but there is still a very big difference between the camera that comes in every phone and a camera like this, a higher end sort of full digital, full digital camera. Tell us a little bit about maybe other than some of the obvious stuff, like what are we missing in our phone that sort of gets enhanced that does?
One is file size, and it may not be important to the consumer photographer, who, if you have a camera that shoots JPEG, which is the file format, then if it's a large enough JPEG, you can go off and make an 8x10 or 11x14, no problem. For the web, you can shoot pretty small files and get pretty good results right on screen, right on the web. No problem. If you want to put an album together later on and you shoot a small JPEG, you're going to be in trouble because there's not enough information there to really yield a really good product in a printed photograph.
Okay.
And and usually people realize that too late. They've already used their phone. They've already shot with a camera.
7, 8, 9 megapixel phone. That's not good. Is that not good enough?
Well, it depends on what your settings are on. I mean,
all the EIEIO of camera settings, right?
If the settings are properly done, then you're okay. I've never shot a wedding or anything important with a phone. Although in some of my photojournalism work, we are using them as a last resort. If we're somewhere, I can shoot video and then publish to the web within minutes.
Okay.
Which is more of a sense of urgency.
Yeah, a little more convenience as well.
Yeah, that's a different end product. Where timing is critical.
Yep.
It's spot news. It's instant. Consumers are more interested in finding out what happened, not longevity of that image.
Right.
So.
All right. So if I'm thinking about upgrading my phone, right? If I sort of look at it and I sort of get a sense that if I do, there are a couple, maybe you mentioned the lighting, the lenses, the aperture, like there are a couple dimensions that I might want to experiment with and sort of upgrade from my phone. Do I have to go? How high? Is there like an entry level camera that makes sense as an upgrade to a phone? Let's start before we go like off the crazy deep end of awesomeness. What's that first entry level phone that would make sense? Or
the camera.
Entry level camera, yeah.
So regardless of brand out there, because the conversation here is really about what's right for the photographer, not necessarily what brand you're picking. Because you can talk to a number of people and get different brand recommendations.
Yeah.
The issue is how are you going to be using the camera?
Okay. So let me stop you there. Like what are a couple of ways that we could use a camera and get like way better results than we're using with our phone? In this scenario where your photo always turns out lousy.
Got it.
Use a professional camera and you'll get this kind of result.
Low light is a problem.
All right.
So birthday party for the kids, going out to dinner, you're taking pictures, you want somebody to take a picture of you and then publish it to the web. For the most part, the phone's okay, but if you want something that you could then produce later on, you probably want to go to a better camera. You can get into a kit camera, which is the body and a small zoom lens, for about $400 or $500.
Okay.
And those are name brands.
So does the camera not come with a lens?
The better cameras will come is just the body only.
Okay.
Okay. When you get beyond,
that's the old school things that you'd unscrew. I saw my dad You'd unscrew this lens, put it in, take another one.
All interchangeable.
Okay, and that's still the way that it is.
Yes, yes. You can get into that kit, which is the body and the lens, and sometimes you get a bag and some other things, for about $400 or $500.
Okay.
As you go above that, then you start to buy the camera body separately, and you buy the lenses separately, and for different reasons.
All right, but you could sort of get into that situation for $400 or $500.
Absolutely.
And
even add a lens later on, an upgraded lens, what you'll usually get is an 18 to 55 millimeter zoom. Okay. And then above that, if you want to get into a mid-level telephoto lens, you can buy that later and still use the same camera body that you purchased.
Okay. And is there, what's the next jump? Right? Is there a price where it's like, all right, if I've invested, I've done this, but then it's sort of the same question. Is there something that I can do that sort of is so far beyond what maybe an entry-level camera can do that I might as well just make that jump to some ultimate camera because of its capabilities? Maybe talk to us a little bit what are the ultimate camera capabilities that, again, we can assess if those are right for us or not?
There are lens differences within most of the major camera lines. There is a lens difference from the entry-level kit camera and where you're buying separate lenses. The quality definitely jumps. And what you see that is in shooting low light. Same thing with the camera body and the digital sensor. Better sensor. Yep. We've got cropped sensor, which is the affordable line. Then you've got the full frame, which is what I own, which is in the upper line. And
so what does that mean? What do I get with full frame? Does that just mean a bigger...
I could shoot in the dark or almost near dark, and the image would still stay in good shape.
Okay.
And that's a result of better lenses and a better processor and a better chip, a full frame chip.
All right, and if I wanted to investigate some of these choices, if any of this sounded interesting, should I do what we all do and go onto Amazon and just start price shopping there? Or do you have any advice for sort of how to get the best, the best deal?
I would. I'm a big fan of using your local retailer. Fill in the blank of who it is, and go and work with them and buy from them if you're going to use them for knowledge.
Will they have products and lenses and things that are comparable to what I can get on Amazon?
Full line right there, and they will be competitive.
And you'll probably get great customer service.
Excellent customer service, and you're going to get the ability to upgrade face to face, all that stuff.
Okay. Well, great. Scott, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Lots of great insights, lots of opportunities to go investigate new things. So I appreciate everybody joining us today. I look forward to seeing all of you again on our next episode of Financially Fit with Jason Haviland. Thank you.
Saving and investing can be confusing and overwhelming. We're here to break through the noise, misinformation, and confusion with easy-to-understand concepts and tools that you can put into practice right away. Whether you're a novice investor or an old pro, join Jason as he explores different topics on investing and personal finance. From 401ks to better budgeting decisions, we'll cover it all. Our investment guidance will give you the comfort and security of knowing that you're on track to achieve your goals. It's time to rise above all of the distractions of daily life and take control of your financial future. Welcome to Financially Fit with your host, Jason Haviland.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.